The 1970s produced some of cinema's greatest masterpieces, but beneath the surface lay dozens of brilliant films that time forgot. Movies that critics dismissed, studios buried, or audiences simply missed. Today we're diving into 15 forgotten gems from the decade that changed everything. Are you ready to discover your next obsession? The Parallax View, 1974. Warren Beatty thought he was making a simple thriller about political conspiracy. Instead, he accidentally created one of the most terrifying films about American paranoia ever made. Beatty plays a journalist investigating the assassination of a political candidate, only to discover a shadowy corporation that recruits killers by testing their psychological profiles. Director Alan J. Pakula crafted something that feels like a documentary from hell. The film opens with a sniper picking off witnesses during a political rally, then follows Beatty as he slowly realizes he's being hunted by the same people. What makes it genuinely unsettling is how plausible everything feels. The Parallax Corporation doesn't operate like a movie villain organization. They use corporate recruitment tactics, psychological testing, and bureaucratic efficiency to create assassins. The film's centerpiece is a mind-bending sequence where Beatty takes the Parallax personality test. For 8 minutes, he watches a slideshow of images designed to identify potential killers. No dialogue, just images of violence, authority, and American symbolism flashing across the screen, while Michael Small's haunting score builds tension. Critics at the time found it pretentious. Modern audiences recognize it as pure genius. Paramount barely promoted the film, afraid it was too dark for mainstream audiences. They were probably right. The movie grossed only $3 million against its $4 million budget. Roger Ebert called it paranoid and brilliant, but most critics dismissed it as conspiracy theory nonsense. 3 years later, after Watergate fully unfolded, those same critics started calling it prophetic. The film's influence runs deep through modern cinema. Paul Thomas Anderson has cited it as a major influence on There Will Be Blood. The Coen brothers borrowed its tone for No Country for Old Men. Even Christopher Nolan admits he studied its paranoid atmosphere while making The Dark Knight. The Parallax View predicted the corporate manipulation of violence in America decades before anyone else was paying attention. Phase 4, 1974. Saul Bass was the king of movie titles and posters, but he only directed one film in his entire career. Thank God he did, because Phase 4 is one of the strangest, most beautiful science fiction films ever made. It's about super-intelligent ants that evolve overnight and start waging war against humanity. Yes, really. The plot sounds ridiculous until you actually watch it. 2 scientists hole up in a research station in the Arizona desert to study these evolved ants, only to realize the insects are studying them right back. Bass shoots the ants like they're alien invaders, using extreme close-up photography that makes them look absolutely massive and terrifying. Every shot of ant behavior was real, filmed with microscopic lenses that captured actual insect behavior in stunning detail. What sets Phase 4 apart from every other Nature Gone Wrong movie is its complete commitment to the ant perspective. Bass doesn't anthropomorphize them or make them cartoon villains. These ants operate with collective intelligence that humans can barely comprehend. They build geometric structures, coordinate complex attacks, and communicate in ways that suggest they've developed their own civilization overnight. The film treats them as a genuinely alien intelligence that happens to share our planet. Paramount had no idea how to market a philosophical ant movie. They buried it in drive-ins and grindhouse theaters, where audiences expecting giant monster thrills found something closer to 2001, A Space Odyssey. The film lost money and disappeared from theaters within weeks. Critics were split between calling it pretentious art house nonsense and a minor masterpiece. The original ending, which Bass fought to keep, showed the ants successfully evolving humans into a new hybrid species. Studio executives found it too disturbing and forced him to shoot a more conventional conclusion. The original ending was thought lost until 2012, when a complete print surfaced and revealed just how radical Bass's vision actually was. Modern science fiction filmmakers still study Phase 4's approach to non-human intelligence. The Friends of Eddie Coyle, 1973. Robert Mitchum was 56 when he made this film, and every year showed on his weathered face. He plays Eddie Coyle, a small-time Boston gunrunner facing prison time who agrees to inform on his criminal associates. It's the most unglamorous crime film ever made, and that's exactly what makes it brilliant. Director Peter Yates shot the entire film on location in Boston, using real criminals as extras. The dialogue sounds authentic because author George Vafe Higgins wrote the source novel based on actual FBI wiretaps and court transcripts from real cases. Mitchum himself said it was the most realistic crime film he'd ever worked on. Every character talks like real street criminals, not movie gangsters trying to sound tough. The film follows Eddie as he slowly betrays everyone he knows to stay out of prison. There are no heroic moments or moral victories, just a tired old criminal making increasingly desperate choices to survive. Mitchum plays Eddie with zero charisma or charm. He's not an anti-hero, just a regular guy who happens to sell illegal guns and owes money to dangerous people. When he gets killed at the end, it feels inevitable rather than tragic. Paramount marketed it as a typical Mitchum action movie, which completely missed the point. Audiences expecting shootouts and car chases found a slow character study about the mundane reality of criminal life. The film bombed, grossing less than $2 million domestically. Critics praised Mitchum's performance but found the story too depressing for mainstream audiences. Modern crime films owe everything to Eddie Coyle's influence. The Sopranos borrowed its approach to criminal psychology. The Departed lifted entire scenes from its playbook. Even Martin Scorsese has called it the best crime film ever made about the actual mechanics of being a criminal. It's the movie that proved crime stories work better when they focus on the paperwork instead of the gunfights. The Hired Hand, 1971. Peter Fonda decided to direct a Western about men who talk about their feelings. In 1971, that was practically revolutionary. The Hired Hand follows Harry Collins as he abandons his wandering lifestyle to return home to the wife and daughter he deserted 7 years earlier. It's a meditation on masculinity, responsibility, and whether people can actually change. Fonda shot the film like a European art movie, using slow fades, overlapping dialogue, and handheld cameras that drift through scenes like memories. Cinematographer Vilmos Zsigmond created a dreamlike visual style that makes the American West look mythical and otherworldly. Every sunset looks painted. Every conversation feels weighted with unspoken history. The film moves at the pace of real life, rather than movie time. The story deliberately subverts every Western convention. When Harry returns home, his wife Hannah doesn't welcome him with open arms. She makes him prove he's changed by working as a hired hand on his own farm. Their relationship develops slowly, through shared work and careful conversations about trust and forgiveness. When violence finally arrives, it feels genuinely tragic rather than exciting. Universal had no idea how to market a psychological Western, starring Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda. They pushed it as an Easy Rider reunion, which attracted completely the wrong audience. Viewers expecting motorcycle outlaws found a quiet domestic drama about farming and marriage. The film disappeared from theaters after 2 weeks and lost money for everyone involved. The Hired Hand predicted the sensitive masculinity movement by decades. Its influence shows up in modern Westerns, like the assassination of Jesse James in Hell or High Water. Directors like Kelly Reichardt and David Lowery have cited it as proof that Westerns work better when they focus on character development instead of gunfights. It's the anti-Western that understood the genre better than most traditional examples. Cockfighter, 1974. Warren Oates spent 6 months learning to train fighting roosters for this role, and it shows. He plays Frank Mansfield, a man who's taken a vow of silence until he wins the Cockfighter of the Year championship. The film follows him across the American South as he travels from one illegal cockfight to another, pursuing a dream that's slowly destroying his life. Director Monty Hellman shot the film using real cockfighting footage, which makes it almost unwatchable for modern audiences. But that's exactly the point. The film doesn't glorify or condemn cockfighting. It simply observes Frank's obsession with clinical detachment, letting viewers draw their own conclusions about a man who's chosen birds over human relationships. Oates delivers most of his performance through facial expressions and body language since Frank rarely speaks. He's magnificent, creating a complete character through subtle gestures and reactions. When Frank finally breaks his vow near the end, his first words carry the weight of months of accumulated frustration and regret. It's one of the best performances of the decade that nobody saw. Roger Corman produced the film as a low-budget character study, shooting it guerrilla style across Georgia and Alabama. The cockfighting scenes were filmed at real matches, with actual participants who had no idea they were in a movie. Local authorities tried to shut down production multiple times, forcing the crew to move locations constantly. The film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, where critics hailed it as an American masterpiece. Domestic distributors had no idea what to do with a silent protagonist who trains fighting roosters. It played briefly in art house theaters before disappearing completely. Animal rights protesters picketed the few theaters that showed it, ensuring it would never get a wide release. Modern viewers can appreciate its uncompromising vision of American obsession, but finding a copy requires serious effort. Electra Glide in Blue, 1973. Robert Blake plays a motorcycle cop with big dreams and bigger delusions. John Wintergreen is a small-town Arizona patrolman who thinks solving one major case will get him promoted to detective. Instead, he discovers that police work is mostly about power, corruption, and protecting people who don't deserve protection. Director James William Garcia shot the film like a Western, using Monument Valley locations and epic wide shots that make Blake look tiny against the vast desert landscape. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous, turning police motorcycles into mechanical horses and traffic stops into moral confrontations. Every frame looks like a magazine photograph from the height of American car culture. The film works as both a police procedural and a satire of law enforcement mythology. Blake's character believes in justice and proper procedure, but everyone around him operates through violence and intimidation. When he finally gets his big case, it involves hippies, drug dealers, and corrupt fellow officers who care more about closing cases than finding truth. United Artists marketed it as an action movie starring the guy from In Cold Blood. Audiences expecting motorcycle chases found a slow character study about institutional corruption. The film bombed spectacularly, grossing less than $1 million against its $2 million budget. Critics praised the cinematography, but found Blake's character too naive to be believable. The film's reputation improved dramatically after the success of Chinatown and The French Connection. Modern viewers recognize it as an early example of the corrupt cop genre that dominated cinema throughout the 1970s. Its influence shows up in everything from Serpico to Training Day. Robert Blake's performance perfectly captures the tragedy of believing in systems that don't deserve faith. The Last Detail, 1973. Jack Nicholson plays a Navy petty officer escorting a young sailor to prison for stealing $40 from a charity box. The assignment should take 3 days. Instead, Nicholson and his partner decide to show the kid the time of his life before he gets locked up for 8 years. What follows is part road movie, part character study, and completely heartbreaking. Hal Ashby directed the film with loose, improvisational energy that makes every scene feel spontaneous. The three sailors drink their way across the Northeast, visiting bars, diners, and a brothel where Nicholson tries to give the kid some experience before prison. Randy Quaid plays the young sailor with perfect innocence, making his eventual fate feel genuinely tragic. The screenplay by Robert Towne captures military life with brutal accuracy. These aren't movie sailors spouting patriotic dialogue. They're working-class guys doing a job they don't particularly like, following orders that don't make sense. Nicholson's character knows the system is wrong, but lacks the power to change anything. His solution is to show kindness within an unkind institution. Columbia Pictures nearly shelved the film because of its language and anti-military themes. The script contains over 200 uses of profanity, which was unprecedented for a major studio release. Studio executives demanded cuts, but Ashby refused to compromise. The film eventually got an R rating and limited release. Critics loved it, particularly Nicholson's performance as a career military man with a conscience. He earned an Oscar nomination for playing against type as a character who uses aggression to hide genuine compassion. The film influenced every road movie that followed, proving that the journey matters more than the destination. Modern viewers still connect with its message about finding humanity within dehumanizing systems. Straight Time, 1978. Dustin Hoffman plays a career criminal trying to go straight after 6 years in prison. The system won't let him. His parole officer treats him like an animal. Legitimate employers won't hire ex-cons, and old criminal friends offer the only reliable income. The film follows his inevitable slide back into crime with documentary-like realism. Hoffman spent months researching the role by interviewing real ex-convicts and parole officers. He based his character on real people he met during preparation, copying their mannerisms and speech patterns. The performance feels completely authentic because Hoffman understood the psychology of men trapped between prison and poverty with no legal options for survival. Director Ulu Grossbard shot the film on location in Los Angeles, using real locations that ex-convicts actually frequent. The halfway house, parole office, and dive bars all look lived in and authentic. When Hoffman robs a bank, it plays out in real time without music or dramatic flourishes. Just desperation, adrenaline, and the mechanical precision of someone who's done this before. Warner Brothers had no idea how to market a Dustin Hoffman movie without a happy ending. They buried it in limited release, where critics praised the performances but audiences stayed away. The film lost money and disappeared quickly from theaters. Hoffman later said it was his most personal project and biggest commercial disappointment. The film predicted the modern conversation about criminal justice reform by decades. Its portrayal of parole officers as petty tyrants and ex-convicts as trapped victims feels remarkably current. Modern crime films like Hell or High Water and Wind River owe significant debt to its realistic approach to criminal psychology. It's the most honest film ever made about why people return to crime. The Killer Elite, 1975. Sam Peckinpah made a spy thriller about professional killers working for the CIA. The result is typically violent, completely paranoid, and absolutely brilliant. James Caan plays a government assassin who gets betrayed by his partner and left for dead. His recovery and revenge quest takes him through a world of corporate espionage and political assassination. The film operates on pure Peckinpah logic, where violence is the only honest form of communication. Characters shoot first and ask questions later, because asking questions gets you killed. Caan's character doesn't seek justice or moral satisfaction. He wants revenge, money, and professional respect. The film treats assassination like any other blue-collar job, with unions, corporate politics, and workplace safety issues. Peckinpah cast real martial artists for the action sequences, creating fight scenes that feel genuinely dangerous. When characters get hit, they stay down. When they fall off buildings, they die messily. The film's climax takes place on a naval ship, where Caan protects a Japanese politician from ninja assassins. It sounds ridiculous, but plays completely straight. United Artists marketed it as a James Caan action movie, which undersold its philosophical complexity. Audiences expecting straightforward heroics found a paranoid thriller about institutional betrayal. Critics dismissed it as typical Peckinpah violence without understanding its political subtext. The film bombed and was quickly forgotten. Modern action films owe enormous debt to the Killer Elite's approach to professional violence. The John Wick series lifted its entire world-building concept. Jason Bourne borrowed its conspiracy elements. Even Marvel films use its idea that assassins operate like corporate employees. It's the action movie that understood violence as labor before anyone else was paying attention. The Conversation, 1974. Francis Ford Coppola made this paranoid masterpiece between the first two Godfather films. Gene Hackman plays Harry Coyle, a surveillance expert who records private conversations for corporate clients. When he accidentally captures evidence of a planned murder, his professional detachment crumbles and paranoia takes over. The film works as both character study and political thriller. Harry is the best in his business because he maintains emotional distance from his subjects. He records conversations without judging their content or caring about consequences. That professional armor dissolves when he realizes his latest recording will lead to someone's death. Coppola shot the film during the height of Watergate, when Americans were discovering how extensively their government spied on them. Every scene feels suffused with the anxiety of being watched by unseen observers. Harry's apartment is sterile and anonymous, designed to reveal nothing about its occupant. His few personal relationships are carefully controlled to maintain his professional cover. The film's sound design is revolutionary, using overlapping conversations and ambient noise to create a realistic acoustic environment. Audiences hear exactly what Harry hears through his equipment, including the static, distortion, and background noise that make surveillance work so difficult. The famous park recording sequence builds tension through audio clarity rather than visual action. Paramount released it the same week as The Godfather Part 2, ensuring it would be overshadowed by Coppola's more commercial project. Critics recognized it as a masterpiece, but audiences found it too slow and cerebral. The film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, but barely broke even domestically. Modern viewers appreciate its prescient warnings about surveillance culture and privacy invasion. Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, 1974. Sam Peckinpah's most personal film is also his most violent and completely insane. Warren Oates plays a piano player who agrees to find the severed head of a dead man for a $10,000 bounty. The quest takes him across Mexico in a journey that becomes increasingly surreal and nightmarish with each scene. Peckinpah shot the film like a fever dream, using handheld cameras and natural lighting that makes everything look slightly unreal. Oates carries around a rotting head in a burlap sack for most of the movie, talking to it like a traveling companion. The film treats its grotesque premise with complete seriousness, never winking at the audience or acknowledging its own absurdity. The violence escalates throughout the film until it becomes almost abstract. Bodies pile up in increasingly creative ways as Oates fights his way through criminals, corrupt police, and bounty hunters. By the climax, he's covered in blood and completely unhinged, shooting everyone in sight while protecting his decomposing prize. United Artists executives hated the film and barely released it. Critics called it Peckinpah's worst movie, dismissing it as exploitation garbage without artistic merit. The film disappeared quickly and was assumed lost until film scholars rediscovered it in the 1980s. Modern critics recognize it as Peckinpah's most uncompromising vision. The film influenced every subsequent movie about obsessive quests and moral degradation. The Coen brothers borrowed its tone for No Country for Old Men. Quentin Tarantino has called it one of his favorite films. It's the Western that completely abandoned heroism in favor of pure existential horror. Warren Oates gives the performance of his career as a man who loses his soul for money. 3 Days of the Condor, 1975. Robert Redford reads books for the CIA and stumbles onto a conspiracy that makes Watergate look like a parking ticket. His entire office gets assassinated while he's out buying lunch, leaving him as the only witness to a plot involving oil companies, government agencies, and international terrorism. The film follows his desperate attempt to stay alive long enough to expose the truth. Director Sidney Pollack shot the film like a documentary, using handheld cameras and natural lighting that makes every scene feel urgent and immediate. When Redford returns to find his coworkers dead, the camera captures his genuine shock and confusion. The murders look real because they're shot without dramatic music or stylized violence. The film's paranoia feels completely justified given its historical context. Released just 1 year after Nixon's resignation, audiences were primed to believe their government capable of anything. The conspiracy Redford uncovers involves legitimate CIA operations that actually existed. The film's political predictions proved remarkably accurate over subsequent decades. Faye Dunaway plays a photographer who gets kidnapped by Redford and gradually becomes his ally. Their relationship develops through shared fear rather than romantic attraction. She helps him because she realizes the people hunting him will eventually come for her too. Their partnership feels authentic because it's based on mutual survival rather than movie chemistry. Paramount marketed it as a Robert Redford thriller, which undersold its political complexity. The film was a solid hit, grossing over $40 million domestically. Critics praised its realistic approach to conspiracy themes. Modern viewers appreciate its prescient warnings about government overreach and corporate influence. It's the paranoid thriller that proved conspiracy theories sometimes turn out to be true. The Outfit, 1973. Robert Duvall plays a professional thief who declares war on the entire criminal organization that killed his partner. The film follows his systematic campaign of robbery and violence as he works his way up the hierarchy of organized crime. It's point blank without the art house pretensions. Director John Flynn shot the film with clinical precision, treating violence like a business transaction. When Duvall robs mob establishments, he operates with professional efficiency rather than dramatic flair. The camera observes his methods without judgment, letting audiences appreciate the craft involved in professional crime. The supporting cast includes Karen Black as a mob girlfriend who helps Duvall for her own reasons and Joe Don Baker as a hitman who respects his target's professionalism. Everyone in the film talks like real criminals rather than movie gangsters. The dialogue sounds authentic because it's based on actual criminal slang and procedures. The film was adapted from a Richard Stark novel, part of the Parker series that influenced every subsequent crime story. Duvall's character operates by a strict professional code that values competence over loyalty. He doesn't seek justice or moral satisfaction, just the practical solution to a business problem. MGM barely promoted the film, releasing it as a B-movie programmer. Critics who saw it praised Duvall's performance and Flynn's direction. The film disappeared quickly, but developed a cult following among crime film enthusiasts. Modern heist movies owe significant debt to its realistic approach to criminal operations. It's the crime film that treated theft like skilled labor. Junior Bonner, 1972. Steve McQueen plays an aging rodeo cowboy trying to win one last championship before his body gives out completely. Sam Peckinpah directed this, his most gentle and humane film, about a man confronting the end of his usefulness. It's a Western without guns, violence, or traditional heroics. The film follows Junior through a single rodeo weekend in his Arizona hometown, where his family is falling apart and his profession is disappearing. His father wants to move to Australia and prospect for gold. His brother is turning the family ranch into a mobile home park. Junior represents the Old West, trying to survive in the modern world. Peckinpah shot the rodeo sequences with multiple cameras, capturing the genuine danger and athletic skill involved in professional rodeo. McQueen performed many of his own stunts, getting thrown from real bulls and horses. The physical punishment he endures looks authentic because it is authentic. The film works as both character study and eulogy for disappearing American masculinity. Junior's skills have no value in the modern world, but he continues performing them because they define his identity. His final ride becomes a statement about dignity in the face of inevitable defeat. Cinerama Releasing had no idea how to market a Steve McQueen movie without car chases or gunfights. The film bombed despite excellent reviews. Critics recognized it as Peckinpah's most mature work, but audiences expecting typical McQueen action stayed away. Modern viewers appreciate its honest portrayal of masculine vulnerability and the cost of living, according to outdated codes. The Late Show, 1977. Art Carney plays an aging private detective investigating the murder of his former partner. The case involves missing cats, stolen stamps, and a conspiracy that gradually reveals the seedy underbelly of Los Angeles. It's Chinatown played for laughs, but the laughs don't diminish the genuine danger. Director Robert Benton shot the film like a classic film noir, using shadows and neon lighting to create a romantic vision of detective work. Carney's character is too old and too slow for the job, but he compensates with experience and stubborn determination. His investigation methods are outdated but effective. Lily Tomlin plays a ditzy actress whose cat disappears, leading to murder and international crime. Her character seems flighty and unreliable, but she proves surprisingly resourceful when danger arrives. The film treats her intelligence seriously while acknowledging her unconventional thought processes. The mystery plot involves stamp collecting, pet theft, and organized crime connections that feel both ridiculous and plausible. Benton keeps the tone light while treating the violence seriously. When people get shot, they stay down. The humor comes from character interactions rather than cartoon violence. Warner Brothers marketed it as an Art Carney comedy, which misrepresented its noir elements. Critics loved the performances and Benton's direction. The film earned modest box office returns, but disappeared quickly from theaters. Modern audiences appreciate its successful blend of comedy and suspense. It's the detective movie that proved aging protagonists could carry action stories. So there you have it, 15 forgotten masterpieces that deserved better than history gave them. These films prove the 1970s produced more than just blockbusters and auteur darlings. Which of these hidden gems surprised you the most? And here's the real question that'll keep you up tonight. If these brilliant films could disappear so completely, what modern masterpieces are we ignoring right now that future generations will rediscover and wonder how we missed them?